Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast about people, where we discuss any and everything under the sun having to do with being a human. If you like what you're hearing, feel free to subscribe, rate, and share your favorite episodes with your friends and family. If there's a topic you want to hear more about, feel free to reach out to us on social media or at the email linked in the description. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy this episode. Much love. Hey, on this episode, we're going to talk about the rebranding of this podcast, what to expect, as well as a check-in in regards to the past year. First of all, we're definitely not going to rehash 2020 on this podcast or ever at all. Not like we're gonna bury it in the recesses of our mind, but I'm not gonna bring that to the forefront for y'all. So the check-in about the past year is essentially just gonna be, what I've been up to business wise, as well as music wise, as well as, getting curious about what y'all are up to, and hopefully, you guys could respond on social media or at the email linked below. But yeah, so to start, I was, on my way. I guess we're gonna relive a little bit of 2020. I was on my way to spot to live down in LA for the third time. If you know me, you know I'm a bit of a nomad. So if my heart, spirit, body, mind wants to go and live somewhere, I just follow it. I don't ask questions. I pack up all my stuff, let go of the things that I do not want to take with me or do not fit in my car, and I move. Being single, not having any attachments to any, respective location, just based on the fact that the way I've built my business allows me to travel for my business, just kind of allows me this freedom to do and kind of go with the flow, which is definitely something I need, just being the human that I am. Kind of the freedom to explore the world and the freedom to explore my desires to their fullest extent. And so I was starting to, look at apartments and townhomes and all the different things down for rent in Los Angeles. And then, that came to an abrupt halt. So I have definitely been navigating the new layers of what was brought about last year, as well as doing my best to maintain space of creativity in my life. And just, with all the variables, I noticed that I personally had to pause a lot to be able to hold space and capacity for what was going on. I don't know if any of y'all had that experience, but it's kind of like, you got, a plate with like 3 entrees on it, and you're like, wait, hold on, like I'm only able to eat 1 entree at a time. I gotta pause. That's kind of what happened for me last year, at least like energetically, and bandwidth wise, just due to all the different variables that I'm not going to talk about on this podcast. And so in my business, it's been really cool. I actually got to support a lot of really awesome new clients last year. We helped out a music festival called Folk Medicine that was raising funds for folks impacted in the Amazon basin, impacted by COVID in the Amazon basin. And also I got to work on a musical that was supposed to, launch in person up in a theater. I think it was like in the Pacific Northwest here in the States, the United States. But, because of what happened last year, they wanted to still launch the musical last year. So I was technical director on that and helped them facilitate recording it on Zoom, kind of dialing in all the equipment that they would need, things such as this, gave them insight on editing it and all that. And then beyond that, definitely got to work with a lot of my clients that I had previously who were also working to transition their events to the online space. And if you were a part of, the new wave of clients that came through last year, the new communities that I was able to support, hello, thank you so much for the energy and the space that we got to share last year as well as this year. And thanks so much for being a part of, being a part of the wave of folks that were still cultivating space for connection. If you know anything about my business, you know that I do what I do because I know that me taking the technical aspects, the music and the AV off of the hands and the plates of my clients allows them to really focus on their content and connection. And that's what I've been focused on within my business, Vida Media, which, you know, services community builders and community leaders. And yeah, so the folks that were still focused on creating that space last year in the face of everything, it was a really big pleasure to be a part of a lot of those projects, a few of which I have just mentioned. And so I was actually, you know, I really got to marinate last year on the Mindset Magic School podcast, as well as the Mindset Magic School platform that I had been seeking to launch, which I still am going to be doing that in some iteration. However, where I got to with the podcast is that I didn't only want to talk about mindsets. And I had the sense that how I had branded it and how I had been pushing out episodes, which if you want to listen to them, definitely feel free to go back and listen to them. I'm not going to archive them or anything. They're going to remain as they are, just so y'all could see the evolution of this podcast and, you know, where it started and where it's going. And also, honestly, so I don't have to reshare some of the personal stories that I already shared. So folks that want to get to know me can definitely listen to those. Yeah, so, you know, got to sit with that, and I actually recorded an episode, I believe it was at the top of this year, for a new iteration of the podcast. And I recently, within the past month or so, we're in October right now, so within like September, August, about that, I had actually had this really amazing download about this podcast and what to name it and how to operate it. So we are currently here, and that's what we're doing. The podcast about people, as you heard in the intro, is going to be a podcast in which we talk about any and everything having to do with being a human. So that is, you know, being creative, being an artist, creating community, the different layers of what comes up when we're creating community, the different layers of how we exist as human, and the intersections of, I'm not really going to dive too deep as a facilitator around conversations about, you know, identity and different things such as that, but we will have guests on who we can definitely dive deep about those sorts of topics with. I definitely am looking forward to giving y'all some surprises with this podcast. I really, really, really wanted to create a platform that would allow me to do kind of what I spoke about earlier, just, you know, reach into my desires and experience them fully. What's to come, I'm not going to tell you all the things except what I just said, but this podcast is going to offer a lot of definitely mindset stuff, as we had done previously on this podcast, as well as interviews, as well as just, you know, some surprises that you'll have to keep tuning in to hear. But yeah, so that's what to expect. That's what's been going on. That's what's being cultivated. I just wanted to kind of release this episode as I'm, you know, looking to relaunch this podcast, such that y'all know that I'm still here. I haven't ditched this podcast. I've just been in a marinating space, kind of like a season of harvesting, a season of maybe not harvesting yet. I think I'm in the harvesting stages right now, but I had been in a season of tending to what I had planted, as well as, you know, repotting, purchasing bigger pots to be able to replant all the things that I had planted, that sort of thing. So as I'm in this harvesting space, I'm really excited to have y'all tuning in. That was an alarm for something I'm cooking. But yeah, so I'm really excited to have y'all tuning in, because that alarm just went off. Honestly, this is just where we're going to end for now, because I'm going to go eat. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm really looking forward to where this podcast is going to grow and evolve to. And for those that are still subscribed and tuned in, thank you so much. For the new folks that might come from me posting about this, thank you so much. I send you all lots of love. I hope you have been able to cultivate and sift through the things that whatever came up for you in the past year and like almost 2 years now, since the last episode of this podcast, but also just specifically in general, like the last year for us as a global society here on the planet. And I send you so much love, and I will connect with y'all soon. Thank you so much for tuning in, and peace. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the podcast about people. I'm your host, Vida Miramontes-Locke, and it was a pleasure to be here with y'all today. Thank you for tuning into this conversation. Chat more soon. Much love.